Good morning. All right, I'm going to get started. Today, I'm just talking about what it looks like to pursue Jesus over the summer. Summer is a very interesting time. When we go to summer, it's very different from kind of the vibe of the school year. One, you have a lot more time, right? You're not like swamped with all this homework and stuff. Who feels like they're kind of drowning right now in the fourth quarter? Yeah, it's a lot. But summer is different. There's a lot more time. A lot of families travel different places. You're not surrounded by the same people, the same teachers to cheer you on. In the summer, it's a lot of just like you, your family, and Jesus. Which, counting these factors in, that means summer can go a lot of different ways. I found it really interesting that Miss Keithy actually talked about like summer, because there's a lot of different, like during summer you can either grow really close to Jesus and just become a greater friend with him, or you can go the opposite path and kind of just drift away. I know for me, like summer is either like super impactful and life-changing, like the summer between my 8th and 9th grade years is probably the season where I encountered God the most. Or summer is just like a really kind of dry season and you're kind of just making your way through and then you just kind of wait till the next school year. But the difference between these two paths of either going closer with Jesus and going farther away is based on the amount of time you give him. Do you want your relationship to grow deeper with Jesus over the summer? Because if you do, you have to give it time. Like if you're gonna learn a new instrument, you have to give it time to practice. If you want to get better at a sport, you have to work out, you have to train. So if you want your relationship to grow deeper, you have to give him your time. We've talked a lot about this year about changing in the presence of God. Right? I've talked about, like, as you soak in his presence, you'll become more like him. Dawson talked about, as you behold Jesus, you'll become him. So over the summer, if you sit in his presence, you'll become more like him. And as you sit in his presence, and we come back next August, the people that have spent time with Jesus will look very different from the people who didn't. You guys all know in Exodus, Moses went up on the mountain and met with God. And when he came back down, his face was shining, like he was physically glowing. And the Israelites knew he spent time with Jesus. So my hope is that when we come back in August, that we'll be able to see in our friends that they're physically different, that they're emotionally different because they spent time with Jesus. In Acts 4:13 it says, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. I think that's really cool that the crowd saw Peter and John, and they just knew that they had been with Jesus. It was nothing that John and Peter did. They weren't in particularly special, but the crowd knew that they had spent time with Jesus. And it's really interesting because a lot of people have told our teachers and stuff that our group of TDA students is different. And especially over Lions Week, it's really easy to tell because you take 2 of our classes and you go into an environment that's different from our own. And you get people all the time telling how special the group, like how special our school is. And I want to touch on this a little bit because, like this past year when we were in Richmond, the people at the base were talking with my dad, and after the first worship set, they could already tell that our school was different. And it had nothing to do with how special we were as students. It had nothing to do with like what we brought to the table. It was simply that we as a school have spent time with Jesus. And at the Bible Museum, so the Bible Museum is like 5 or 6 stories of like different, just different things you can look at. And we all started together, and then we had like an hour or 2 where all the juniors and seniors just split up. Some of us went to go get lunch, some of us walked around. And at the end, there were some people that told like our leaders that the people wearing the sand shirts, because we were all matching, like that's a good group of kids. Like you have a special group. And that's crazy because we weren't even like, they weren't even in our assemblies, they weren't worshiping with us. We were literally just walking around. And I promise we weren't like the most obedient kids in that museum. Like we weren't the perfect people. But it's crazy that people could tell that we were different. And it's simply because we've spent so much time as a school in the presence of God, right? Most people, at most, they go to church on Sundays and spend time with Jesus. And maybe they go to youth group on Wednesdays. But we have every single day time together to spend with Jesus. And you stack that up over weeks and months and years, and we will look completely different from other people, and people will be able to see that difference in us. So my hope is that as we go into the summer, and like, we don't have this mandatory assembly. We don't have these Bible meditations that you're supposed to turn in. Like, if you keep that relationship with Jesus, even amongst your friends at this school, you will look so much different when you come back. John 15, super famous chapter, talks about remaining in Jesus. If you abide in Jesus, you'll bear fruit, right? That also means, on the flip side, if you don't abide with Jesus, you're not going to bear fruit. So your summer's not going to be fruitful if you're not abiding with Jesus. I heard a phrase once, it was talking about spending time with Jesus. Our worship with Jesus and our time spent with him is kind of like eating food. You're not going to remember every single meal you eat. You'll remember the good ones, like the retreats and stuff, or like a super impactful moment for your life maybe. But like I promise you, I don't even remember like some of last week's assemblies. Like you're not going to remember it all. But it's those times that sustain you. If you stop eating, you're going to die. But so like the meals that you don't remember are still keeping you alive. And especially as seniors, as you guys move on from this like TDA Daniel lifestyle, you can't just rely on the big meals in a sense, like the big events like retreat and stuff to keep you going. That's what a lot of alumni have done, and it's really sad to watch because there are people from TDA, and it's really weird when you graduate from TDA, you either continue to run and pursue after Jesus, or pretty quickly after you graduate, you kind of drift away and fall away from Jesus, and it's really, really sad to watch. And it's because some of the alumni prioritized their time with Jesus, and they kept that after their time at TDA, and some of the alumni just kind of just thought they could make it without that, and then they fell short, and it's super sad. The difference between those currently running after Jesus and those who are not is some made time for him and some didn't. I get that like you can be busy, right? Life is busy, especially now, fourth quarter. Like we're swamped with finals, APs, like there was just a theater show, people are going to Joplin today. And I convinced myself a lot that I'm too busy to spend time with Jesus. Like it'll be in the middle of the night and I go upstairs to my room and I'll go to sleep having convinced myself that I actually had no time for Jesus. But the truth is you make time for the things that are important to you. So if spending time with Jesus is actually one of your priorities, you'll make a way for it to work. Like, if there's a friend's birthday party you want to go to, and your life is really crazy, you'll make time to go to that birthday party because it means something to you. Spending time with Jesus is never wasted. I'm going to end with that. Like, there's no amount of, like, you're not gonna lose parts of your life because you spend time just by yourself with Jesus. So I just want to encourage you guys over the summer just to make that time with Jesus your priority. And yeah, I'm super excited just to come back next August and just to be able to see in my friends just, oh wow, like they spend time with Jesus. And I know that's my hope for the school. So with that, I'm going to ask Addie and Justice to come up here. We have a quick announcement. They're going to announce a super cool